Dracula, Part 7. The great box was in the same place close against the wall, but the lid was laid on it, not fastened down, but with the nails ready in their places to be hammered home. I knew I must reach the body for the key, so I raised the lid and laid it back against the wall, and then I saw something which filled my very soul with horror. There lay the Count, but looking as if his youth had been half renewed, for the white hair and mustache were changed to dark iron gray, the cheeks were fuller, and the white skin seemed ruby red underneath. The mouth was redder than ever, for on his lips was fresh blood, which trickled from the corner of the mouth and ran over the chin and neck. Even the deep, burning eyes seemed set among swollen flesh, for the lids and pouches underneath were bloated. It seemed as if the whole creature were simply gorged with blood. He lay in a filthy leech, exhausted with his repletion. I shuddered as I bent over to touch him, and every sense in me revolted at the contact. But I had to search, or I was lost. The coming night might see my own body a banquet in a similar way to those horrid three. I felt all over the body, but no sign could I find of the key. Then I stopped and looked at the Count. There was a mocking smile on the bloated face, which seemed to drive me mad. This was the being I was helping to transfer to London, where perhaps for centuries to come he might, amongst its millions, sedate his lust for blood and create a new and ever widening circle of semi demons to batten on the helpless. The very thought drove me mad. A terrible desire came upon me to rid the world of such a monster. There was no lethal weapon at hand, but I seized a shovel, which the workmen had been using to fill the cases, and lifting it, struck with the edge downward at the hateful face. But as I did so, the head turned, and the eyes fell upon me with all the blaze of horror. The sight seemed to paralyze me, and the shovel turned in my hand and glanced from the face, merely making a deep gash above the forehead. The shovel fell from my hand across the box, and I pulled it away. The flange of the blade caught the edge of the lid, which fell over again and hid the horrible thing from my sight. The last glimpse I had was of the bloated face, blood-stained and fixed with a grin of malice which would have held its own in the nethermost hell. I thought what should be my next move, but my brain seemed on fire as I waited with a despairing feeling growing over me. As I waited, I heard in the distance a gypsy song, sung by merry voices coming closer, and through their song, the rolling of heavy wheels and cracking of whips. The Sangani and the Slovaks, of whom the Count had spoken, were coming. With a last look around at the box which contained the vile body, I ran from the place and gained the Count's room, determined to rush out at the moment the door should be opened. With strained ears I listened and heard downstairs the grinding of keys in the great lock and the falling back of the heavy door. There must have been some other means of entry, or some one had a key for one of the locked doors. Then there came the sound of many feet tramping and dying away in some passage, which sent up a clanging echo. I turned to run down towards the vault, where I might find the new entrance, but at the moment there seemed to come a violent puffs of wind, and the door to the winding stair blew to with a shock that sent the dust from the lintels flying. When I ran to push it open, I found that it was hopelessly fast. I was again a prisoner, and the net of doom was closing round me more closely. As I write, there is the passage below, a sound of many tramping feet, and the crash of weights being set down heavily, doubtless the boxes with the freight of earth. There is a sound of hammering. It is the box being nailed down. Now I can hear the heavy feet tramping again along the wall, with many other idle feet coming behind them. The door is shut and the chains rattle. There is a grinding of the key in the lock. I can hear the key withdraw. Then another door opens and shuts. I hear the creaking of the lock and bolt. Hark! In the courtyard and down the rocky way, the roll of heavy wheels, the cracking of whips, and the chorus of the Sanji as they pass into the distance. I am alone in the castle with those awful women. Mina is a woman, and there is not in common. They are devils of the pit. I shall not remain alone with them. I shall try to scale the castle wall farther than I have yet attempted. I shall take some of the gold with me, lest I want it later. I may find a way from this dreadful place, and then away for home, away to the quickest and nearest train, away from this cursed spot, from this cursed land where the devil and his children still walk with earthly feet. At least God's mercy is better than that of these monsters, and the precipice is steep and high. At its foot, many may sleep as a man. Goodbye, all, Mina. The next chapter is a letter from Miss Mina Murray to Miss Lucy Westerna. My dearest Lucy, forgive my long delay in writing, but I have been simply overwhelmed with work. The life of an assistant schoolmistress is sometimes trying. I am longing to be with you and by the sea where we can talk together freely and build our castles in the air. I have been working very hard lately because I want to keep up with Jonathan's studies, and I have been practicing shorthand very assiduously. When we are married, I shall be able to be useful to Jonathan, and if I can stenograph well enough, I can take down what he wants to say in this way and write it out for him on the typewriter, at which also I am practicing very hard. He and I sometimes write letters in shorthand, and he is keeping a stenograph journal of his travels abroad. When I am done with you, I shall keep a diary in the same way. I don't mean one of those 2 page just to the week with Sunday squeezed in a corner diaries, but a sort of journal which I can write in whenever I feel inclined. I do not suppose there will be much of an interest to other people, but it is not intended for them. I may show it to Jonathan some day if there is anything worth sharing, but it is really an exercise book. I shall try to do what I see lady journalists do, interviewing and writing descriptions and trying to remember conversations. I am told that with a little practice, one can remember all that goes on or that one hears during a day. However, we shall see. I will tell you of my little plans when we meet. I have just a few hurried lines from Jonathan. I have just had a few hurried lines from Jonathan from Transylvania. He is well, and I will be and will be returning in about a week. I am longing to hear all of his news. It must be so nice to see strange countries. I wonder if I mean Jonathan and I shall ever see them together. There is the 10 o'clock bell ringing. Goodbye, your loving Mina. Tell me all the news when you write. You have not told me anything for a long time. I hear rumors, and especially of a tall, handsome, curly haired man. Letter Lucy Westerner to Mina Murray. Chatham Street, Wednesday. My dearest Mina, I must say you tax me very unfairly with being a bad correspondent. I wrote to you twice since we parted, and your last letter was only your second. Besides, I have nothing to tell you. There is really nothing to interest you. Town is very pleasant just now, and we go a good deal to picture galleries and for walks and rides in the park. As to the tall curly head man, I suppose it was the one who was with me at the last pop. Some one has evidently been telling tales. That was Mr. Holmwood. He often comes to see us, and he and Mamma get on very well together. They have so many things to talk about in common. We met some time ago a man that would just do for you if you were not already engaged to Jonathan. He is an excellent para, being handsome, well off, and of good birth. He is a doctor and really clever. Just fancy. He is only 9 and 20, and he has an immense lunatic asylum all under his own care. Mr. Homewood instructed him to me. Mr. Homewood introduced him to me, and he called here to see us often comes now. I think he is one of the most resolute men I have ever saw, and yet the most calm. He seems absolutely imperturbable. I can fancy what a wonderful power he must have over his patients. He has a curious habit of looking one straight in the face, as if trying to read one's thoughts. He tries this on very much with me, but I flatter myself he has got a tough nut to crack. I know that from my glass. Do you ever try to read your own face? I do, and I can tell you it is not a bad study, and gives you more trouble than you can well fancy if you have never tried it. He says that I afford him curious psychological study, and I humbly think I do. I do not, as you know, take sufficient interest in dress to be able to describe the new fashions. Dress is a bore. That is slang again, but never mind. Arthur says that every day. There it is all out, Mina. We have told all our secrets to each other since we were children. We have slept together and eaten together and laughed and cried together. And now, though I have spoken, I would like to speak more. Oh, Mina, couldn't you guess? I love him. I am blushing as I write, although I think he loves me, he has not told me so in words. But oh, Mina, I love him. I love him. I love him. There, that does me good. I wish I were with you, dear, sitting by the fire, undressing as we used to sit, and I would try to tell you what I feel. I do not know how I am writing this even to you. I am afraid to stop, or I should tear up this letter. I do not want to stop, for I do so want to tell you all. Let me hear from you at once, and tell me all that you think about it, Mina. I must stop. Good night. Bless me in your prayers, and Mina, pray for my happiness, Lucy. P.S. I need not tell you this is a secret. Good night again. Letter, Lucy Westerman to Mina Murray, May 24th. My dearest Mina, thanks and thanks and thanks again for your sweet letter. It was so nice to be able to tell you and have your sympathy. My dear, it never rains but pours. How true the old proverbs are. Here I am, who shall be 20 in September, and yet I have never had a proposal till today. Not a real proposal. And today I've had three. Just fancy. Three proposals in one day. Isn't it awful? I feel sorry, really and truly sorry, for two of the poor fellows. Oh, Mina, I am so happy that I don't know what to do with myself. And three proposal. But for goodness sakes, don't tell any of the other girls, or they would be getting all sorts of extravagant ideas and imagining themselves injured and slighted if, in the very first day at home, they did not get six at least. Some girls are so vain. You and I, Mina dear, who are engaged and are going to settle down soon soberly into old married women, can despise vanity. Well, I must tell you about the three, but you must keep it a secret, dear, for every one except, of course, Jonathan. You will tell him because I would, if I were in your place. Certainly tell Arthur. A woman ought to tell her husband everything. Don't you think so, dear? And I must be fair. Men like women, certainly, their wives to be quite as fair as they are, and women, I am afraid, are not always quite as fair as they should be. Well, my dear, number one came in just before lunch. I told you of him, Dr. John Stewart, the lunatic asylum man, and the strong jaw and the good forehead. He was very cool outwardly, but all nervous all the same. He had evidently been schooling himself as to all sorts of little things and remembered them, but he almost managed to sit down on his silk hat, which men don't generally do when they are cool. And then, when he wanted to appear at ease, he kept playing with the lancet in a way that made me nearly scream. He spoke to me, Mina, very straightforwardly. He told me how dear I was to him, though he had known me so little, and what his life would be with me to help and cheer him. He was going to tell me on how unhappy he would be if I did not care for him, but when he saw me cry, he said that he was a brute and would not add to my present trouble. Then he broke off and asked if I could love him in time, and when I shook my head, his hands trembled, and then with some hesitation he asked me if I cared already for anyone else. He put it very nicely, saying that he did not want to wring my confidence for him, but only to know, because if a woman's heart was free, a man might have to hope. And then, Mina, I felt a sort of duty to tell him that there was someone. I only told him that much, and then he stood up and looked very strong and very grave. He took both of my hands in his and said he hoped I would be happy, and that if I ever wanted a friend, that I must count him of one of my best. Oh, Mina dear, I can't help crying, and you must excuse this letter being all blotted. Being proposed to is all very nice and that sort of thing, but it isn't at all a happy thing when you have to see a poor fellow knows whom you knows loves you honestly, going away and looking all broken-hearted, and to know that no matter what he may say at that moment, you are passing quite out of his life. My dear, I must stop here at present. I feel so miserable, even though I am so happy. Evening. Arthur has just gone. I feel better in spirits than when I left off, so I can go on telling you about the day. Well, my dear number two came after lunch. He is such a nice fellow, an American from Texas, and he looks so young and so fresh that it seems impossible that he has been so many places and had such adventures. I sympathize with poor Desmona when she has had such a dangerous stream poured in her ear, even by a man. I suppose that when we women are such cowards that we think a man will save us from fears and we marry him. I don't know what I would do if I were a man and wanted to make a girl love me. No, I don't, for there was Mr. Morris telling us stories, and Arthur never told any, and yet, my dear, am I somewhat previous? Mr. Quincy P. Morris found me alone. He seems that it seems that a man always does find a girl alone. No, he doesn't, for Arthur tried twice to make a chance, and I helping him at all I could. I am not ashamed to say it now. I must tell you beforehand that Mr. Morris doesn't always speak slang. That is to say, he never does so to strangers or before them, for he is really well educated and has exquisite manners. But he has found out that it amused me to hear him talk American slang, and whenever I was present and there was no one to be shocked, he said such funny things. I'm afraid, my dear, he has to invent it all, for it fits exactly into whatever else he has to say. But this is a way slang has. I do not know myself, for I shall ever speak slang. I do not know if Arthur likes it, as I have never heard him use any of it as yet. Well, Mr. Morris sat down beside me and looked as happy and jolly as he could, but I could see all the same time he was very nervous. He took my hands in his and said ever sweetly, Miss Lucy, I know I ain't good enough to regulate the fixin' of your little shoes, but I guess if you wait till you find a man, that is, you will go join them seven young women with the lamps when you quit. Won't you just hitch up alongside of me and let's us go down the long road together, driving in double harness? Well, he did look so good humored and so jolly that it didn't seem half so hard to refuse him as it did poor Dr. Stewart. So I said, as lightly as I could, that I don't know anything of hitchin', and that I wasn't broken to harness at all yet. Then he said that he had spoken in a light manner, and he hoped that he had made a mistake in doing so on so grave so momentous an occasion for him. I would forgive him. He really did look serious when he was saying it. And I couldn't help feeling a bit serious too. I know, Mina, you would think me a horrid flirt, that I couldn't help feeling a sort of exaltation that he was number two in one day. And then, my dear, before I could say a word, he began pouring out a perfect torrent of love making, laying his very heart and soul at my feet. He looked so earnest over it that I shall never again think that a man must be playful always and never earnest, because he is merry at times. I suppose he saw something in my face which checked him, for he suddenly stopped and said with a sort of manly fever that I could have loved him for if I had been free. Lucy, you are an honest hearted girl, I know. I should have not been here speaking to you as I am now if I did not believe your clean grit right through to the very depths of your soul. Tell me, like one good fellow to another, is there anyone else that you care for? And if there is, I'll never trouble you a hair's breadth again, but will be, if you will let me, a very faithful friend. My dear Mina, why are men so noble when we women are so little worthy of them? Here was I almost making fun of this great hearted true gentleman. I burst into tears, I'm afraid, my dear, and you would think this very sloppy letter in more ways than one, and I really felt very badly. Why can't they let a girl marry three men, or as many as want her, and save all this trouble? But this is hearsay, and I must not say it. I'm glad to say, though, that though I was crying, I was able to look into Mr. Morris's brave eyes and told him out straight. Yes, there is someone I love, though he has not told me yet that he even loves me. I was right to speak to him frankly, for quite a light came into his face, and he put both his hands and took mine, and I think I put him into his and said in a hearty way, "That's my brave girl. It's better worth being late for a chance of winning you than being in time for another girl in the world. Don't cry, my dear. If it's for me, I'm a hard nut to crack, and I'll take it standing up. If that other feller doesn't know his happiness, well, he'd better look for it soon, or he'll have to deal with me. Little girl, your honesty and pluck have made me a friend, and that's rarer than a lover. It's more unselfish, anyhow. My dear, I'm going to have a pretty lonely walk between this and kingdom come. Won't you give me one kiss? It'll be something to keep off the darkness now and then. You can, you know, if you like. For that other good fellow, he must be a good fellow, my dear, and fine fellow, or you could not love him. Hasn't spoken yet. That quite won me, Mina, for it was brave and sweet of him, and noble too. To a rival, wasn't it? And he's so sad. So I leant over and kissed him. He stood with my two hands in his and looked down into my face. I'm afraid that I was blushing very much. He said, "Little girl, I hold your hand, and you've kissed me. And if these things don't make us friends, nothing ever will. Thank you for your sweet honesty to me, and goodbye." He wrung my hand, and taking up his hat, went straight out of the room without looking back, without a tear or a quiver or a pause. And I am crying like a baby. Oh, why must a man like that be made unhappy when there are lots of girls about who would worship the ground he trod on? I know I would if I were only free. Only I don't want to be free, my dear. This quite upset me, and I feel I cannot write of happiness just at once, after telling you of it. I don't wish to tell of the number three until it can be all happy. Ever your loving Lucy. P.S. Oh, about three. I needn't tell you number three, need I? Besides, it was all so confused. It seemed only a moment from his coming into the room till both his arms were around me and he was kissing me. And I am very, very happy, and I don't know what I have done to deserve it. I must only try to future in the future to show that I am not ungrateful to God for all of his goodness to me in sending me such a lover. Such a husband, such a friend. Goodbye.